Okay, welcome back. Dave here, Cracking Code with Dave. And this is the continuation of the overview of what we've learned in the first few weeks of CIS 150 AB in regards to Swift. If you haven't seen the first video where we go over this stuff, then you want to check out that first video. And again, we've made some constants. We talked about constants, variables, properties, storing data in these things here, functions, a block of code that you can repeat again and again. Here's how to call the functions. Here's how you store the property that returns from that function. So if you return something out of the function, then you could store it later. And so again, Playground comes down here, executes these functions, references these properties, and then prints out the result down here. I said that a little bit fast, but suffice to say, go back and watch the first video, and let's keep learning, because there is more to what we've learned. For one thing, we didn't learn anything about arrays yet, so let's talk about an array. I'm going to write it out here. Array. An array is what? It's a collection, and I should specify it's an ordered collection of thingies. That's here. So it's an ordered collection of objects or properties. I'll just say an ordered collection of properties or types. I mean, you can have an array of strings, an array of integers, an array of butterflies, an array of whatever, right? If you made your own thing, call it a butterfly, you can have an array of that. But let's see it in action, shall we? Okay, so in learning about array, let's learn about arrays. So I've got my first name up here. So let's make a variable called my jobs. And because I got a couple jobs, I do clearly, obviously, I teach a little bit, so I'm a teacher. And what else do I do? I'm an app developer. My new version of the app was approved by the App Store a couple days ago. I'm very excited about that. Doesn't always happen the first time. Sometimes you submit it to Apple and they'll come back and tell you, you got to fix this and this and this, and you fix this and this, and then they approve it. Or sometimes they just reject you outright. Okay, teacher, app developer. And also I am a technician for the college. Okay. So that's good enough to start with, right? Now we can always add or remove jobs later because it's a variable that you can change it. If I made it a let statement, that'd be, I'd tie it into these jobs forever and ever. I could never change them. Although sometimes it feels that way, yeah, is not the case. Okay. So here we go. It's an ordered collection. In this case, it's of strings, right? Because we know it's strings because there's quotes around these words. So when there's quotes, you'll know there's a string in there. And you'll see I've separated these things by commas, and I put them all inside of square brackets. And that's how you declare an array in Swift. It's around squared brackets around something. So let's take a look at I don't know, my favorite numbers. So an array of favorite numbers is 3 and 33 and 333. How's that? And you'll see it's like the same kind of format, but instead of having strings, I have numbers in here. Now, you usually do not mix these things. Like you can't just put a bunch of strings in with a bunch of numbers without doing some extra code. It can be done. Let's just say my other favorite number is the printed version of 99. So you'll see the compiler has an error. It's got a problem with that. It won't run. You have to specify one extra thing for this, and that is you have to say it's of type any type. Now typically we don't do that. I don't know, you can do it, but typically I don't. Typically I like to keep my arrays very specific. This is an array of strings, this is an array of integers, this is an array of baseballs, or whatever that type is. That way when you go to run some code against it, you know what to expect. It's not just going to be anything you put in there, but it is possible if you do any. Typically, like I would do something like this. It's just only integers. And that's going to give me a problem because you can't do 99 in quotes. It's got to be a number, not outside of quotes. It's got to be an integer. Okay, so there's an example of a couple arrays. Now let's say we want to, when we say hello, let's say we want to say our job. Hello, my name is Dave and I'm a, But maybe I don't want to say the same thing to everyone. Like if I'm in front of my students, I want to say, hello, my name is Dave and I'm the teacher, or something like that. So let's make this function do that. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is, actually, I want to pass another variable in here, and I'm going to call it, it's going to be jobs. No, it's going to be job. So just one job in this case, and it's going to be a string. Okay, so this is one way to do it. Hello, my name is blank, and I'm going to type in, and I am and then I'm just going to put the job in there. So see, I added an extra argument by using a comma here, extra parameter that gets passed in there, and I'm also referencing it later in the return. So you'll see now when we try to call this function, it's saying, hey, there's this other thing, job, and you have to account for it. So I'm going to fix that, and then I'm going to put in my jobs, and then I'm going to put in the first job in the list there. Now, let me comment this out for a moment so we can talk about this one at the top here. So here's the thing. An array always starts with the index of 0. So what that means is, like, you see there's like 3 things up here, and you would think it'd be like the first thing, the second thing, the third thing. Well, not for programmers. For programmers, it's the 0 thing, the 1 thing, and the 2 thing. So an array, it always starts with the number 0. Just know that. So if I want to access this first object in an array, then it's going to be at the 0 position. If I wanted it to be the second object, it'd be the 1 position, and the third object, third, and on and on and on. And you can have gigantic arrays of things. That's fine. These computers are fast. But let's see if that worked. So I'm going to go ahead and run this and just make sure. See what it says. Hello, my name is Dave, and I am a teacher. /n. No, I mean, it's not really important. I know /n means, so if I put a /n here, let's put one up here. Hello, my name is /n. Okay, throw that in there. Now I run it. What the /n means in line text there is, see, it's like a line break. It's like you hit the enter key. So I'm just curious why it's printing at the end of this here. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to check out the internet. And a good resource for when you search for some solution, and a good place to look for stuff like this is Stack Overflow. There's a website called Stack Overflow. It's where all the programmers get really snarky with each other and yell at each other about the correct solution to something. Don't ever post on Stack Overflow unless you are ready to be ridiculed, but it is a good resource for, I shouldn't say don't ever post on Stack Overflow. Do post on Stack Overflow, but you should expect some snarkiness, and it's not, I don't know. Okay, so we're looking for y in Xcode result panel is there /n. Okay, so here's Stack Overflow, and you know, while I knew going into it that the /n is a line break, or I guess line feed. That's interesting. Character return is /r, double quote. So here's Stack Overflow, and you'll see that the answers to the questions are rated. So it's always a good idea to look at the one that's checked the answers, that has the most upvotes. That might be your answer. And this is just someone explaining what the different slash things are: /n, line feed, /r, character return. I was curious why it's showing up on the side panel of Playgrounds, and that wasn't really answered on Stack Overflow, like why is it showing up there. But let's just not worry about it, okay? It's just something that I think that perhaps, and it's funny because it's not here, but it is here. Just don't worry about it. Like if we even look at the code, I wonder if it'll be there. See, it's not even there. So if you throw a /n in the middle, it'll compile correctly, but at the end, they just put that in there just to be special. So I'm just going to ignore that, pretend like I didn't see it. But we got to learn a little bit about Stack Overflow, which is a good resource. Again, look for answers there. Try to find your answer there. Most everything's been answered, so try to find it already, because they hate duplicate questions, and they will be very snarky with you if you post to there. So unfortunately, there are some people that like to be, I mean, it is a curated website, so When I say curated, I mean like they're picking the best answers from the top programmers in the world to vote them up, and so even I'm very reluctant to post things on Stack Overflow, but it is a good idea to eventually over time interact on Stack Overflow, but just kind of brush off the haters, whatever. Okay, we're moving on. Let's move on here. So we've got this code here. Now let's say I want to print out all of my jobs. So we could do this a couple different ways. We could print them all at once, like my name, and I am a teacher, app developer, technician, or I'm going to actually want to do them separately. So the easy way to do them separately would be like this: my hello 1, my hello 2, my hello 3. We'll just do that right that way, and then you can increment them like that, right? So now if I play, it's going to store each of these in each of the responses in these properties called my hello. And you can't see it, but it is, I think, working. Let's double check. Okay. So there you go. Now, I think what I want to do, though, is perhaps instead of doing it that way, I want to put it in a loop. Okay. And the loop we're going to figure out, or the loop we're going to learn here is called a for loop. So it starts with the word for, right? Now, here's the word that we make up. So I'm just going to make up for each job. So I made up that word. That's not a Swift thing. That's just something I made up. For each job in the array. So in my jobs. And then you got the curly braces after that, kind of like a function has, right? So for each job in my jobs, do this bit of code inside of these curly braces. And so what I'm going to do is, instead of this down here, I'm going to take this up here, and I'm going to put this one inside this for loop also. And I'm just going to delete these two. Now, instead of passing in this, my jobs, I'm going to do it this way for each job. And you'll see when we type out each job is a string because we told it was going to be a string. We said this is an array of strings. So we can be guaranteed it's going to be a string that's getting passed into this function. And now for each job in the list of my jobs, it's going to do this thing here. Okay? Let's run it and see if it works. My name is Dave, and I'm a teacher, app developer, technician. Now, you can for loop over things that aren't an array of strings. You could for loop over integers or an array of, or an array of people. Like ultimately, you'll probably learn how to make structures in this class, and a structure could be a person with legs and arms, names, job, whatever. And you can go for each person, do this action, and it would loop through all of the list of people. It gets through. You'll see it runs this 3 times. Why does it run it 3 times? Because there's 3 jobs here. And I said for each of my jobs, run it. Okay, hopefully you got that. That's this is a for. It's called a for loop. And there's a couple different ways to write your for loop, but this is the easiest, simplest way to start with. There's a way you can write the for loop so that you'll get the index, so you'll get the number that it is. Like, is it at the first position 0 or the second position 1? Which position is it? But this is a nice way to do it also. Okay, so I'm noticing a problem here, and this is a kind of a dumb problem, but I am a little picky about these things, and I notice this is not correct grammar right here. Hello world, my name is Dave, and I'm an app developer, right? It's supposed to be an, because this starts with a vowel. So let's get crazy with this, shall we? So what we've got here is, in our function, there's this thing called a job. And what we want to check is, like, if the job starts with a vowel, and then use an, not a. Okay, that makes sense, right? Okay, so there's a lot of different ways we can do this, right? But the first thing we want to do is we want to check to see if the job starts with a vowel. And then if the job starts with a vowel, then use an. So if it starts with a vowel, then there'll be another return. One like this, and there's one like this. Okay, let's just do it like this. So if there's a vowel, do this, and or else just do this. Okay, so what we need here is, just looking at it, we need an if-else statement. Okay, so we need an if-else statement, right? Let's start out with determining what that first letter is, though. And so there's some fancy bit of code to figure out the first letter of a word. Let me just show you that code. You don't have to know this for this particular class, but it's kind of fun to see, I think. So I'll make this thing, and it's going to be the first letter. And I'm going to say for each job, the prefix with the length of 1. Okay, we've done it. This is it. First letter is job with the prefix 1 character long. So this is going to grab the prefix of the job, 1 character of it. Okay, so now we want to check to see if it's A, E, I, or U, right? So if first letter is equal to, so you see there's 2 equal signs. That means is it like exactly the same? It's checking to see if it's exactly the same as A. Or, do you know or yet? Or is like these 2 weird slashes. It's kind of like there's a key above the enter key on the far right. That's that. Or if first letter is equal to E. Let's just start with A, E, okay? And we'll end that. We'll do all the others in a second, but I just want to get this going. And then I put an else there. So else. So the if statement is like this. If this condition is true, then inside these curly braces do something, or else what's inside these curly braces do that. So if the first letter is a vowel, boom, then return that. Otherwise, return that. Okay. Now let's run it and see if it works. So it gets down to here. It says for each job and jobs, run this function, right? And it's up here. It triggers it. And is it working? And now 3 times it says no, it's not working. Because, do you know why? Because you look and it's getting the first letters. Let's see if we can look at those first letters. Yeah, here's the last one it got, T. And you see something special about that letter versus what I'm checking against here? Is that it's a uppercase letter. And so this equals is checking also to see if it's the same exact case. So what we want to do actually is there's another thing. Just by the nature of being a string, you get some extra functionality. And there's this one thing called uppercase. So this will force all the letters to be uppercase letters now. So now when it's checking against that, it's going to check to see if it's an uppercase one. And so I'm going to make this uppercase also. That way, it doesn't matter what, when it's checking the job, like if I type the job in with a lowercase or uppercase, it doesn't matter. It's going to force everything to be uppercase, and it's going to check it against an uppercase letter. Hopefully that you understand what I'm saying there. I don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but that's just an extra step we have to do to make sure it's accurate. And there we go. Hello world, my name is Dave, and I'm an app developer. Now we've got some proper stuff going on here. Although I suppose it should be like hello world, comma, maybe. My name is, okay. The other thing we've got to do, of course, is we've got to add the other vowels. So it'll be like this, and then I'm going to paste, paste, paste. Let's just do A, E, I, O, and U. Okay, we'll stick with those. Now, in the future, we can learn some really fancy stuff by extending. So we could like extend a string. This is a little confusing, but like in the future, we could show you how to extend a string so that there's this extra functionality just to check to see if it's a vowel or not. And we put all this fancy code to check that inside of another function we make. Some fancy stuff. We don't have to learn that today, for sure. We don't even have to learn that later. That's just for, that just gives you street cred. Okay. So, what else? That's it. I think that's all we're going to learn for today. We've got, we learned a little bit about if-else statements. We saw some cool code to take the first letter of a string and make it uppercased. And we learned about for loops. There's a for in loop for you. So again, it's like for each item in an array, and then execute this again and again and again for each of those items. That's a for loop. In the future, we'll learn all kinds of other things, but this is a good place to end, I think, for weeks 1 through 4. Man, if you know this stuff and the previous video, you're in good shape. We'll continue again. And if you get stuck or you have any questions or whatever, just leave a comment on this video or send me an email on Canvas. I want to be available for you, so just let me know if you're stuck. I don't want you spinning your wheels trying to figure something out. Let's keep it moving forward and let's keep learning. I'm here to help you get through your Swift course.